What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, Cheesehead TV, ready to talk some football with the creator of Pack-A-Day podcast and a purveyor of fine Packers takes everywhere you go on this here internet, Andy Herman. How are you after a thrilling come-from-behind victory that we won't even think about the putrid that we saw through three quarters? We're just going to concentrate, right, on all the good shit. That's what I'm here to do.
I'm not sure if you're talking about the Packers game or my third place win in fantasy baseball yesterday, because we finished third in the league and it was an amazing comeback. But no, it was a really fun day at Lambeau. Obviously awesome to see the comeback. And yeah, just a cool Jordan Love moment, cool Packers moment, and fun to be in the stadium for the home opener for that.
So now I kid, because we obviously have to talk about everything that transpired leading up to the dramatic fourth quarter comeback, which was a lot of fun, and we will get there. But man, have you seen a team? Let's dial that back a little bit. Have you seen a Packers team come out of the gate in a home opener so completely dead set on shooting themselves in the foot repeatedly?
No, that's an easy answer. No, I don't think we've seen that. Maybe in the 80s preceding my time of watching the team, maybe there was some of that, but right. Yeah, no, it wasn't great. And we knew, Aaron, we talked about ad nauseum the roller coaster ride that was going to be this team in 2023. Their first seven quarters of football, plus 30-point differential. Everyone's on top of the world. You know, I don't think anyone's saying you're going to the Super Bowl, but like, this is a team that's going to compete and win some games. And then the next four quarters, they got outscored 30-0. Like from the fourth quarter in Atlanta to New Orleans through three quarters, 30-0 run for the opposing teams in the NFC South. Yeah. And then in the fourth quarter, they go on a 18-0 run to come back and win that game. So like, you talk about your roller coaster, plus 30, negative 30, plus 18. We're 3 weeks in, and that's the roller coaster we've seen already. So it's been a little crazy, but not totally unexpected.
It's fascinating to me to watch the narratives that form after this game, as far as like, yes, there were certainly tons of things that you could point to that didn't go the Packers' way, and or that they, the mistakes they made, the things that they did to put themselves in such a hole. But I will tell you, man, like, it's frustrating to me where no matter what happens when it comes to this team coming into this game with so many guys down and then losing so many more guys during the game, but anything positive that happens is luck or it went their way. But anything negative happens, it's like Matt LaFleur and these guys don't know how to coach. And I throw myself in on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to Joe Barry, because God knows anybody who watches the watch parties know how frustrated I get. But then you turn around and you actually look at the performance of the defense or even of the offense, say, in the fourth quarter when they made some adjustments and really started to attack down the field. I mean, this coaching staff, I think, deserves a ton of credit, despite the fact that their players, yes, were there mistakes, were there maybe some questionable decisions and or approaches? Sure, you can nitpick all you want. But I think the coaching staff has to come in for some praise for not only keeping these guys together and keeping the ship kind of pointed in the right direction, so to speak, but to do it without so many blue chip players and to still go out there and produce and get the W. I'm sorry, I think that's a monster kind of feather in the cap for LaFleur and his coaching staff.
Yeah, every once in a while you get sort of a culture test. Like you get a full test of what your team's culture is like. And I've pointed to, I thought last year when they went to Chicago, they had lost 7 of 8 games. They're in Chicago. They're playing arguably like literally the worst team in football. That's only gotten worse since then. That's another fun topic. But they go to Chicago. They're down 2 scores going into the fourth quarter in that game. That team had, maybe not every right, but we've seen a multitude of teams just say, it's not our season. We're done. We're good.
Shutting her down.
Shut this thing down. And they find a way to win that game. I think they win 3 more. Unfortunately, they can't get the job done against Detroit, but that was a culture test. And this one, you have the devastating, and maybe devastating is harsh, but like you have the really tough loss in the fourth quarter against the Falcons. Through 3 quarters of football in this game, you play some pretty putrid football. You're down 17-0. Defense obviously had its moments during that time, no question about it, but like not great overall football. And you have sort of this another culture test, and they passed that with flying colors. This team stayed battling. You could tell how much that meant to Matt LaFleur, saying over and over, like, that's all you can ask for is that guys keep fighting and keep battling, and you see what happens at the end. And they found a way to win it. So yeah, you get these culture tests every once in a while, and the last couple really harsh ones that they've had, I think they've passed with kind of flying colors, honestly.
Looking at the offensive side of the ball first and talking about Jordan and just seemingly his ability to just block everything out. I mean, no matter how bad it's going, no matter how kind of up against it feels like the offense might be, he's going to keep slinging it. And I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it. He is really a gunslinger in the most kind of positive, fun way. And I understand turnovers are going to come. We saw the first one yesterday, though I will say I think he had a legitimate gripe asking for some, defensive illegal contact there. But again, like that's going to happen. I understand. But his lack of fear, I mean, I don't even know if fear is in his lexicon, as far as he's going to keep slinging it. He's going to keep giving guys chances. It was so kind of, I don't want to bash the former quarterback. It's not what this is about, but it is very refreshing to see a guy not turn things down and play within the reads. That is 1, 2, 3. Okay, who's got a chance? I'm going to rip it and let him go make a play. Like, to see that not only once, but repeatedly, again and again and again, in a game where, start of the fourth quarter, it doesn't feel like they have a great chance of coming back and winning that. But then to suddenly just see it come alive like that, man, that's special. That's just special. And I hope Packers fans aren't taking it for granted. I don't know how you felt about it, but to me, I was like, this is a real moment here that we should probably kind of try to absorb.
Not only that too, but also like he kept going back to wide receivers. Jaden Reed had that really difficult drop like on the deep corner out late in the game.
Yep.
He comes back to him, he throws him a go route, and Jaden Reed pays it off with a phenomenal catch. And Romeo Doubs, they threw how many of those, fades in the corner of the end zone?
Fades in the end zone, right?
Couldn't connect with it. He comes back to it, basically game on the line sort of situation, and Romeo Doubs pays that off. Samori Toure, I thought he had a tough game, couple contested catch situations, couldn't come down with anything, 2-point conversion. What does he do? He looks back his way, rifles him a ball, and Toure comes down with it. So, I think the most frustrated we've seen Jordan look was on after the 4th and 2 play to Patrick Taylor.
I literally just said this to Camille on Carry the Gene MKE. I think that is the most frustrating. Even after the Kansas City game, everything he went through in that first start, I never saw what we saw after that 4th and 2. And even that, Andy.
That's what I was going to say. Like, even that was very subdued. It was like,
exactly.
It was like, all right, let's go.
All right, let's get next.
Just that hot second of like
the sideline.
Super, pissed off that happened.
Frustrating. It's frustrating moment. Yeah.
You go
but
back.
He doesn't lay into him. There's no real demonstrativeness. It's just like, okay, on to the next. Yeah. It's again. I'm not trying to throw anyone else under the bus. I understand that, like, it's just so different. It's so different, and the whole feel and / vibe around the team is so different because of it. What did you think as far as the play of the offensive line? Because you can talk about the people they were missing. Obviously, when you're down to David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins, and then Zach Tom towards the end there, and you can think, okay, well, we're going to get run over. And they really didn't in pass pro. I thought against a really good, active Saints front, I thought in pass protection, they actually held up much better than I kind of expected them to coming into the game. But man, the run blocking, I don't know what they're going to do there. They can't sort it out. They can't. No. I mean, it's not even just, and I'm not even talking about like blowing people off the ball. I'm talking about simple zone shit where you're trying to get that initial double team, get up to the second level. They just can't get it done. And that to me is concerning a little bit.
I do think in a rare situation, this might be one of those years where an early bye week might do this team well, not only A, from an injury standpoint with how banged up they are right now, but B, just getting a couple of those things sorted out for a really young team that might just need to take a breath and just have some time and be like, all right, we need to refocus a couple things, because even with Bakhtiari and Jenkins in there, the run blocking has been really poor. Obviously, it's not going to get better when you lose Bakhtiari and Jenkins, but I'm with you. I thought overall, like, the offensive line played pretty well. Royce had a couple moments. Runyon had a couple moments. I thought Myers played well in this game. Zach Tom played well. And I thought Rasheed Walker played really freaking well in this game.
How about Walker, right? Yeah. I mean, again, against some pretty top flight competition, I thought Walker held up really well.
He did. And that's like, I kind of figured, like, if you go back to that Falcons game, a lot of his miscues were in like the first couple drives of that game. And it just felt very nervy on the road, first start. They're moving him around a bunch of places. I kind of had a feel like he might settle down a little bit in, this game at home. And that's what we saw. And I think that's certainly a level of exciting just because we don't know what's going to happen with Bakhtiari from here on out. So there's some positives to take away. But yeah, from a run blocking standpoint, it's not just offensive line, it's tight ends, it's wide receivers. It's the whole, function of the running game is a bit of a mess right now.
Looking at the running back spot, we just heard from Matt LaFleur a little bit ago. He had his press conference a little earlier than usual because they have a short week.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you this. Do you buy what he's selling when he was asked about Patrick Taylor being out there down the stretch for most, I would say, most of the comeback? And I know what he's saying is like, well, they were in 2-minute mode. Patrick just happened to be out there. Like, I don't know if I buy that. I really think that was a concerted. Remember, they were backed up like inside their 5, I think, or at their 5. They give AJ 2 carries down there. One of that inside zone pitch, another like just basically up the gut. Does precious little with it. And I think those 2 carries, I won't say broke AJ, but I think broke the trust on Sunday afternoon. And I think from that moment on, you don't see AJ again. Yeah. And I don't think it's a question of, oh, we're just in 2-minute mode. I think they were like, oh, okay, we need somebody that can at least produce and get either get a few yards, but yes, also pass block, go on and pass routes. You saw him split wide. We mentioned the 4th down, but like just be utilizing the passing game and just give us options as opposed to, man, we're just repeatedly running into the line over and over and over again.
I think it's a combination of both. I do think they probably went out there being like, all right, we're in 3rd down mode. Let's get Patrick Taylor an opportunity. I think maybe there was a little bit of it where obviously Dillon was struggling up until that point. And then I also think like once Taylor got going, they're like, well, why are we just going back? And I think the other thing too is that, we can start talking like, I think the one thing that AJ does pretty darn well is pass protection more often than not. Patrick Taylor might be doing that better than him too. Like it's not necessarily because Dillon's doing it poorly, just because Patrick Taylor's really good at it. And he provides a threat out of the backfield of actually catching the ball and sort of making someone miss after the catch yesterday. So like you're just starting to get into, and I brought this up. And again, I'm not trying to be too overly harsh of a player here. You're running out of situations where you're like, this is the situation I want AJ Dillon in the game for, because the 3rd down stuff, Patrick's better at it. Like obviously the playmaking stuff, Jones is better. Even the short yardage stuff, that hasn't exactly been his forte as of late. So it's just like you're kind of running out of things where you're like, yeah, that's when I want AJ on the field, and that's just it is what it is. I think at this point.
Yeah, very much agreed there. Flipping it over to the defensive side of the ball, I thought they did such a good job and such a better job than last week in regards to most of the stuff the Saints were trying to do between the tackles in the run game. You saw how successful Atlanta was in lots of different areas, right? And I think Rasul touched on this in his locker availability after the game, where it was pretty obvious that the Saints came into this game going, okay, well, we're going to run it on these guys, and we're going to try and establish the run in a way that the same kind of way Atlanta did. And the Packers did a light years better job. Now, obviously, it's a different offense, different line. There's different circumstances that are at home as opposed to on the road. But, man, I tell you what, that was encouraging. I mean, for all the consternation and hand-wringing coming out of last week's game, they at least, recognized the issue and seemingly did a much better job in that regard. As far as, I think the Saints got some stuff working to the outside at times. But, man, the interior was closed off. They couldn't get anything going.
I know we don't ever really like to do this, but I still think you got to go back to Atlanta and give Atlanta a lot of credit for what they did offensively in that game too. Like Bijan Robinson's a heck of a running back. I know he didn't have as good of a week against Detroit in week 3, and I'm not, just saying like, oh, Green Bay can have a poor day run defensively, that they obviously have to find answers to it. But the way that they spread out Green Bay early and got them going sideline to sideline and then came back inside using Desmond Ridder as a running threat, like there were layers upon what Atlanta was doing. And we saw in week 1, Chicago wasn't looking to run Justin Fields. He got a couple scrambles, but that running game, and I know it's Chicago, yes, we can caveat that to death, but they held Chicago's their running backs in check really well in that game. They held the Saints running backs really in check in this game as well. So 2 out of 3 games, players not, and even Tyler Algier in that game, he had 3 yards per carry. So running backs not named Bijan Robinson, Green Bay's done a very good job on so far. And sometimes you do have to tip your cap a little bit to the player on the opposing side who is pretty freaking good too.
No doubt. And then the other guy, the one aspect or the player I wanted to highlight, and I mentioned this on Twitter a little bit ago, Darnell Savage is a different player this year, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying he's, Nick Collins 2.0 or anything even approaching that. But, man, night and day compared to what we've seen over the last 2 seasons in particular, but last year especially. just the energy, the way he's flying to the football. And no, he's not always perfect. He's missed some tackles. He's missed some, he's probably been in the wrong spot a couple of times. But man, when he arrives, he is getting dudes on the ground. He is flying to the ball. He is clearly not thinking as much, reacting more, and being physical in a way that I have not seen him be his entire NFL career. I'm talking about a complete 180 from what we saw in 2022.
Could not agree more. I'm so happy that you brought it up because, like, I just the first 2 years that Darnell Savage, you saw flashes of stuff that were
You
really,
saw
really
the
fun. And I think we
potential.
were
Yes.
all
Yes.
really excited about it. I
Yeah.
thought the last 2 years were really, really bad from Darnell Savage. And he got benched last year for a reason. He was not playing good football. He came back after the benching, played a little bit better, but this is a totally different Darnell Savage than we saw the past 2 seasons. And like you said, sometimes he's making mistakes, but Matt LaFleur will always say, make your mistakes fast, make them aggressively.
Exactly.
And that's
he's
what
not scared to do that.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it.
It's so fun though. And like, those are my favorites because like, yes, I'm going to be harsh on players when I see things that I don't think look good, but I want all of these guys to do extremely well. I would love if all 53 guys on the roster were playing at an all-pro level every single week.
Right.
And it's so fun just to see him playing with a renewed confidence, with a renewed energy, and just attacking the football. And like you said, it's not Nick Collins, not all-pro, probably not even, living up to the first round. I don't care. He's playing winning football right now, and it's really fun to watch.
The other thing I need to touch on the defensive side of the ball, for all my Joe Barryness and my Joe Barryness, they held up quite well. They knocked the starter out of the game, and I know that's going to be the but for the rest of time, and I understand all that. I will say my one nit to pick here, though, is how do you let 100-year-old Jimmy Graham score a touchdown in Lambeau Field? Like, come on. How in the world are we allowing this in the year of our Lord 2023? Andy, you need to let Joe know he needs to answer for his crimes on that one.
Right. Jimmy Graham in 2 seasons had 3 touchdowns at Lambeau in Green Bay. He had one yesterday as a 48-year-old member of the New Orleans Saints. The crappy part is Rasul actually had pretty good coverage on it.
He's right there. Yeah.
Close to like breaking it up and batting it down and holding him to a field goal, whatever. But like, yeah, of course, you knew it was going to be, either him or Taysom Hill. You knew it was going to be Jimmy Graham or Taysom Hill getting the touchdowns.
Revenge game for somebody.
Once Joel Williams was out, it had to be one of the other two. But frustrating to say the least.
Looking at the special teams real quick before I let you go. Clearly, this whole game, it's so funny. I was talking yesterday. I'm like, none of this drama is even necessary if they just tackle that punt return. I will give credit to the returner. I mean, he's got some burners. He made some nice moves. But man, that's poster child stuff for what not to do in every aspect of the punt itself is bad. And I know they were going against the wind, what have you, but the punt is poor, coverage is suspect, and the long snapper, and I think Justice put this out there, like trying to do a comic book hero type tackle. Like, no, dudes, we don't need to be flying through the air. I really think Madden added that animation this year, and I think dudes are just trying to emulate it. Can we just get some sound wrapping up, get in front? Like, that's to me, it's like without that play, none of the drama is necessary because they only gave up 10 points on defense. Yeah. So that's the one spot where you're thinking, okay, you're doing all right in every other aspect of the game, but man, it just kind of reiterates and brings up ghosts of special teams past where you're like, all it takes is one play and that can bust open and really, really turn a game. And it's funny to watch Bisaccia talk about, the things that are necessary to correct it, but it's like, man, I thought we went through all this summer. Thought we went all through this last year. Precarious is all I can think of every time they're out there to cover any kind of kick.
Yeah, so a couple things. One, you can't allow the haymakers. You can't allow the huge, massive, punt returns for touch. Like if he gets 20 yards on it, all right, tip your cap. You understand it, but you can't allow the 70-yard punt return touchdowns. Like that stuff will get this, especially this team. Like they're going to be in a lot of close games. That's going to get you beat more often than not if you're allowing that stuff. Credit to the stuff that Anders Carlson's been doing so far. He's made every single kick, knock on wood. Like there's some positives that the special team is doing, but you can't allow the big plays. And I think the thing I'll add on top of that is there are too many players that are on this roster that are on the team specifically for special teams.
Because they're special teams players.
To be that, to let that stuff happen. You're keeping Dallin Levitz, and I know Rudy Ford's playing, defense, but like there's far too many players specifically on this roster right now just so that stuff doesn't happen. it can't happen. So,
Yes.
I'm willing to give
Yeah.
one accident forgiveness on the season, but like you said, if it hadn't been an issue for 30
Forever.
years up to this
Yeah.
point, we're probably
Yeah.
not making as big of a deal of it. But you're just you don't want to see it
Can't be
anymore.
done, man. It cannot be done. You
Yep,
get what you emphasize. You got to emphasize it. I
big
totally
time.
agree. Andy, it's always great. It's always therapeutic. Really appreciate your time every Monday or day after a game. Are we going to do this Friday this week, or do you want to do it next Monday? You want the
Yeah,
weekend to break
what
down the tape?
we are living in your Cheesehead
I'm
TV
driving it.
world.
See,
You
this
just
is
let me
how
know.
She Said TV operates, though. I literally asked Corey the other day, when are we doing transplants? While we were live. So that's how we roll. So yeah, we'll do it Friday. It'll be
All
good.
right, let's do
We
it.
get it up and out right after the game. We'll talk to you Friday. Hopefully the Packers give us something to chew over that's positive coming off. Look, real quick before we head out, Detroit's tough as hell, man. And I don't think it's an accident that Matt specifically called out the fact that they have lost to these guys 3 games in a row. This is a team, and even before that, it's been tough. None of them have been easy. So it's a Dan Campbell team that is going to hit you repeatedly and toughly, if that's a word, which is not. And they're just well coached and very, very technically sound. It's a tough game on a short week. At least they're at home.
At least they're at home. You're right. And the one thing I will say is, maybe my memory is not what it once was. I feel like they played pretty well defensively against Detroit the past couple
Correct. Yes.
games the last year, and it was
Joe has been up to snuff. Yeah.
Aaron had 2 of his worst games,
Yep.
almost like in his Packers career last year against Detroit.
Correct.
So hopefully the defense can kind of keep that up, and hopefully it's a little bit different in a new era this time around. So
that's what I'm
we'll see
talking about.
happens.
Andy, as always, this is fantastic. Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Aaron.